While everyone was busy renting AI from corporations, this man was building it for the rest of us. Raffi Krikorian scaled Twitter, ran Uber's self-driving program, became the first CTO of the Democratic National Committee. Oh, and his podcast hit #2 on Apple's tech charts. Because of course it did. Now he's CTO of Mozilla, on a mission to make sure AI is open, transparent, and actually yours. Not theirs. Yours. Ladies and gentlemen, Raffi Krikorian.
Okay, sorry. Hey, hi everyone, Raffi Krikorian. I'm the CTO at Mozilla. Excited to be here. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're up to. Oh, look at that. What we're up to on the Mozilla front. You're all familiar with us. You might like us, you might hate us. But the mission that I'm on in the CTO position is to rethink how we all are using AI. And so like the thing that we think about a lot is just like whose side is AI on? And we think about that now up and down the stack. I mean, you're all familiar with the browser. We all would say the browser is our user agent. It's meant to protect us from ads, protect us from privacy invasion. It also allows us to have a creator economy on top of what the web does. It allows us to do whatever we wanted to do on top of the web. But the thing that I'm starting to get worried about in my job is sort of like this layer 8 that's showing up all over the internet, which is sort of like this intelligence layer that we're all starting to play with. And I think I argue about this all the time with the Firefox team. Last year was the first year that Google search traffic saw a dent, not a decline, but a dent, correlation, causation. But you got to ask yourself, is it because all these people are starting to use these generative AI agents instead to surf the web? And if that's the case, then we need to have a conversation about what does it mean to be a trusted user agent in that layer 8 kind of world. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're starting to think a lot about on Mozilla. But to start there, we kind of need to rewind and try to get like our values in place and figure out what's the pathway for us to actually do this at the scale that we think we need to make the change. So the phrase that we use a lot inside Mozilla is that, are you an owner or are you a renter? And that's maybe the litmus test that we've been using on a lot of technology these days, especially when it comes to AI. Like, are you owning the AI that's in your pocket, or are you renting it from a big corporation or someone else that just might have a different incentive system that you work on? So, the thing I worry about is we might be careening toward a world of 7 AGIs, plus or minus some, but the world that I want to live in is a 7 billion AGI world. Like, I want us each to have the AGI in our pocket that's actually truly on our side, similar to the way that Firefox is actually supposed to be on your side. So like, how do we actually build to get to that place that we can experience that? Well, I also think about this a lot when it comes to how these generative tools are presenting information to us. Like, I think we've all underestimated how much the 10 blue links on a Google search page has actually done. Like, I think in the world of those 10 blue links, you're seeing dissent, you're seeing incentives, you're seeing all these things that are encoded and displayed to you. You might put in the periphery, you might not exactly understand how PageRank works, but you kind of get a feel of like why these things are on that page. But I say this a lot to reporters, but in the world of like only one result coming out of a generative system, we have actually a really big problem on our hands. Like, that one response, it could actually be encoding a whole set of incentives that you don't know what's going on. Like, in my former job, I used to be in the political world, whole other crazy thing we could talk about. But like, I actually believe this becomes a democracy problem in a lot of different ways. So we need to solve this on the technical and the architectural side to prevent the kind of democracy problems that social media and other things have maybe inflicted upon all of us. So, the thing that I worry a lot about, because I also get asked a lot by reporters, are like, are you just worried about an apocalypse? And I'm like, I'm not actually a doomer. I actually want AI in the world. But the thing that I worry a lot about is consolidation, which is I think why we're all here. I worry a lot about the consolidation of that power. And I want us all to be the builders in some way. So a lot of the technical strategy that I'm pushing at Mozilla is about how to enable more people to be part of the AI conversation, not less people. I want more people. I want to think about in the similar way that like the web, when Firefox pushed for openness and for standards, how the web enabled more people to be creators. I want that exact same experience to show up on the AI side. So one of the things that we've been doing is now we're starting to run these technical radars across all of Mozilla. Like, what are the big trends in the next 18 to 24 months that we're sort of watching that might help inform the kind of roadmap that we're interested in? We'll be publishing a lot of this stuff soon. We're working on something we're calling the State of the Open Source AI report that'll hopefully come out at end of Q2. But maybe just talk about maybe 5 of the things that we've been pulling at that's actually impacting our roadmap, but maybe is a way to have a conversation with all of you. One is there's a lot of talk in 2025 about the small model revolution, like the fact that the small models are starting to outperform larger models on specific use cases. And a lot of it has to do with, as you all know, sort of like this transition from us moving from a prototyping stage on AI to a production stage on AI. So I think there's a lot to be done in that small model world. In fact, Mozilla has done a couple of tactical investments in companies that are building tools to make small model generations faster and easier and open in a lot of different ways. So I'm really interested in that. I do think there's an economic reset that's all happening. I'm sure we're all feeling some form of bubble. And if it weren't for generative AI coding tools, I would say something like the per token price is going down. But of course, generative AI coding tools are like burning tokens like they're free. So like that's causing a little bit of confusion on the exact price. But I do think there's going to be an economic reset as that per token price keeps on dropping. Obviously, geopolitics. The United States is in this like confused state when it comes to open source AI. Like the White House CTO thinks is a good idea. It's unclear if the rest of the administration thinks it's a good idea. But the biggest problem is that not biggest problem, but the biggest geopolitical challenge is some of the best open models are Chinese models. The Europeans are catching up. There's some interesting things happening in the Middle East that we're also investigating and investing in. But those kind of like who's in charge kind of questions, I think is both an opportunity and a challenge for all of us. I think the number of Fortune 500 CEOs that I talk to who say like, I still want my teams to deploy more AI is kind of mind-boggling to me, but I think there's an opportunity in a similar way that Linux sort of like made its way into the enterprise. Like, on a zero order estimate, every computer in the world runs Linux, and then there are some iPhones around. I think the same opportunity can happen when it comes to open source AI. Like we sort of like can get in via the IT departments, we can get in via the engineering departments and actually push open source AI up the business stack. And then finally, like I was mentioned before, I think consumer expectations are just drastically changing. Like I think like the number of people who no longer are going to Google, it's not a huge number, but in the context of the internet, but it's a number we can't afford to ignore anymore. So actually it's on all of us to start building way better AI experiences for those people because they're looking for it in some way, shape, or form. So for me, I think about open as infrastructure, not just ideology. Like I think like from the Mozilla side, like we actually want to start building, investing, and grant making into people that are starting to lay this foundation. And so like, my friends at Pinterest talked about how they made the transition from closed to open, saved $10 million in Q4 of last year. There's an economist named Frank Nagel who talks about how $24 billion is wasted by people not using open source models right now. And so I think there are these really big opportunities. And the frame that we're thinking about it in is like we need a lamp stack for AI. Probably one for inference, one for training, but like that's the metaphor. Like there's so much vibrancy going on in the open source AI ecosystem that we just need a frame in order to package it all together. I was having a conversation with a bunch of ministers at the India AI Summit, and they're all fumbling their way through. They're all somewhat coming to the conclusion that they need open source AI to make their sovereignty play work. And they're all asking the question just like, but what's the stack?
So I think that's one of the biggest challenges for me, for all of us, to like, how do we package it up so that like a government can start deploying it? That's where I think it starts getting really interesting. So this is my test for sovereignty. Like, this is when people ask me, like, what does sovereignty mean? Like, my number one thing is actually, my number one thing is the last one, is like, can you just leave? Like, right now, we're in the situation, obviously, that like both businesses and governments can't really leave the people that are providing AI to them. So, like, I want to make it so that they can leave and that they can choose whatever they want. So, maybe I'll just talk about this for a bit as a way to close out. So, on my team, we think about 4 zones of potential investment in open source AI to really try to tip the scales to move away from closed AI to open source AI. So from the top, we think about this truly as a developer experience problem. So like even me, who like I hack all the time, I have a closet full of GPUs at home that I'm playing with. My default prototyping stance is to use the OpenAI API, because it's just so easy to do. Like it's like a one-line I pip install something, it's a one-line call to a chat completion endpoint. We need the exact same experience when it comes to open source AI. So Mozilla, we're trying to do a bunch of investments in that space, but I look to all of you, like we just need to make it easier to do so that we can really start having the values conversation. Like it's like a Maslow hierarchy of needs problem. Like if you tell me I need to go install a rack of GPUs, I gotta get I have to do all these things. I have to figure out my orchestration framework, do all of it. It's just a non-starter for a lot of the developers. Like I wanna make this so brain dead easy for them to use open source AI. Number 2 is a data question. So I think we really need to reset the economics around data on the web. Right now, there's an assumption it's basically free. And so we're doing a bunch of investments, which I'll get to try to change the economics around data licensing. Third is obviously models. Lots of people are doing models. I love all the open models. We need more of them. In fact, we probably need more of them that are non-transformer based. Like we need to really explore alternative architectures. And then compute. I don't know what we're going to do about compute, but someone's got to do something about compute. So like I said, if we think about the developer experience, a few things that we're doing on the Mozilla side is that we've created a company we call Mozilla AI, and they've built the Any Suite, the Choice Suite. They're going to start maybe calling it the Sovereignty Suite. And the goal for it is to make it really easy for you to switch between LLM providers. So think about it as like somewhat like an open router question, but more. Like we're starting to do also model routing and all the things that go with it. But my sell when I talk to Fortune 500 companies is that you would never build bare metal to AWS anymore. You'd probably put Terraform or something in between so that when your AWS rep calls you, you can say, screw you, I can switch at any moment. We want the exact same thing when it comes to AI. So like if you're going to build with OpenAI API, use the Any Suite, and then when you're ready to optimize, it's a one-line config change. Just go anywhere else you want to go. So we want to make that conversation as easy as possible. On the data side, we've created a company that we call the Mozilla Data Collective. So what they're doing is they're creating a two-sided marketplace that allows anyone to license with provenance and make money from it, all their data sets to big model providers or any model provider in some way. In fact, Mozilla we take a fractional cost of a transaction. The real goal is just to spur a conversation that data licensing should actually be a thing. And I think it's working. Like the Data Collective is in conversation with literally every radio station on the planet right now, because all these radio stations sit on all their native languages, all their transcripts, but they've been keeping it off the web, or a good percentage of them have been keeping it off the web. So we want to provide a way for them to get it onto the web in a way that can be licensed and traced. And then for the models and compute, we've invested in a company that's run by a woman named Sarah Hooker. She's really thinking about how to make small models a thing for all of us. So make it really easy for you to train a small model, release it as open source, integrate it into your stack. On the compute side, we've been thinking a lot about this. How do we get to a world of abundance instead of scarcity is kind of what I feel that we're stuck in when it comes to the NVIDIA chokehold. And so like we've been looking at federated compute companies. We're really interested in things like what Reza is up to for like a distributed like compute wave threads across the planet. So we're really interested in people playing in that space. You know, the Portuguese and the Spanish are thinking about open ASIC design. So like we're starting to like play in all the areas that might make that possible. Oh, that's all the stuff we're doing. And maybe the slide I'll leave us with is like, why do we think this is possible? Because it's been done before. Like, I don't think we're trying to tread new water here. Like when Internet Explorer was trying to take over the web, Firefox showed up as a credible alternative. And now, you know, only a couple 100 million people use Firefox on a daily basis, but it's enough to force the conversation. You can't do something on the web without it being open, having standards around it, interoperability around it. So, you know, Signal is another great example for us that we talk to the Signal Foundation all the time. Like not everyone uses it, but it forces iMessage, it forces RCS to do the right thing. I think we can do the exact same thing if we can create this lamp stack of AI. So maybe I will leave it. Oh yeah, well, this is what a rebellion looks like. So join the rebellion is basically what that slide looks like, and come help us out. We'll be talking a lot about this on Mozilla, but you know, we're sitting on a lot of money in our reserves, and we think this is the existential crisis of our time that we need to start spending those reserves on. So join us, we want to join you. So let's figure this out together. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Raffi. Pass on the clicker to Ted.
I'm on. Hello. Yeah, we'll switch. Okay. Really quickly, we have time for one or two questions. Stick around. That's why I want you to stick around. Does anybody have a burning question they'd like to ask? In my right there, you sir. You sir.
Hey,
hello.
Question. You mentioned abundance in compute. How do federated distributed systems tie into that in your view?
Yeah, I mean, they're related but not the exact solution, right? Like my preference for figuring out abundance of compute is that we can get to alternative architectures that just allow for more people to be creating the computation we need. But the nice thing about the federated compute, you know, we've been talking to a bunch of Europeans about this and et cetera, is that they actually have own data center capacity, and they're sitting on data that they don't want anyone else to release. So can we start thinking about larger models that can be created that span more than one of their data centers that allows us to use federated compute to do it? So it's a related solution, but like the true thing we need to get to is basically like training on heterogeneous hardware that allows for models that don't fit on a single device, right? Like that would be the holy grail, but no, we haven't gotten there yet. Like lots of problems, flaky internet connections, untrustworthy networks, etc. But like that's where I want to get to. We haven't found the place to invest to make that happen.
What? Oh, that's.
Before we take more questions, just because I think we're going to have a panel, so I want to make sure that the panel gets to ask you questions. And if we haven't covered it, we'd love to get your questions after the panel is done. So thank you.
Okay.